This is CBC Here and Now.
I definitely would love to stay here. My husband also loves to stay here.
But they won't be staying and say sadly they have no other choice. Why some PhD students are heading to the States.
Well, for me, it's a personal choice for me.
I didn't want to see him leave, but it's his choice.
A major shakeup in the province's labor sector. Who will lead the FFAW's 14,000 members? Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. We'll get to those stories shortly, but first, real estate experts in the province are calling for updates to outdated legislation, saying more and more clients are coming up against Crown land disputes. Last month, we introduced you to a Catalina couple in a battle with the province over a property they've lived on for almost 40 years, and they're not alone. The CBC's Daryl Roberts has this update.
It happens more often than you'd think. A person will try to sell the land where they've lived and paid taxes for years, only to discover the ownership isn't clear-cut.
It's very difficult, and this is a bit of a tsunami, and we've only seen the start of it so far. So the legislation clearly has to change, and that, in my opinion, is the only way to fix this problem.
The legislation covers squatters' rights on Crown land. Anyone on land once owned by the province needs official documents to prove ownership. If they don't have that grant, as it's called, they need to find two witnesses who remember the land being occupied during a very specific period of time, a 20-year stretch between 1956 and 1977. Pauline Diamond lived in her home for nearly 40 years, but Crown Lands argues she doesn't own the land it sits on. She's waiting for her day in court. O'Day says the Diamonds aren't alone, and he's having his own problems with property in Trinity.
There's demonstrated ownership going back to 1833, but because there was nobody on that land, no occupation between 1957 and 1977, I still have to apply to the Crown to get title to the land that I bought and own.
And it isn't just O'Day. CBC News has spoken to multiple realtors and lawyers who want updates to decades-old legislation.
We're hearing lots of stories of issues related to Crown lands and registry, slowing down sales, cancelling sales, making homeowners go through quieting of titles, having to buy their land, having to prove that they actually have, good title to land that's been in their family for generations.
In a statement, the provincial chapter of the Canadian Bar Association says its members are interested in changes to the Lands Act, saying, "We have expressed to government our willingness to assist with this work." The minister responsible for Crown lands says his department plans to review the legislation with a goal of streamlining it. He says consultations will begin soon.
We're going to start with the Law Society, the lawyers, the real estate people, the realtors. That's the people we need to get in and talk to, because they're the people that's having the issues with this right now. Now, I'm saying they're the people, they're the ones dealing with the legal side of all this, getting it figured out. So homeowners or property owners are also very stressed over this. So, we're not looking to make this more complicated, but we have to make it so that we can be legitimate.
Bragg says the legislation won't be changed in the near future, and in the meantime, he's advising anyone unsure of the status of their land to get clear title. Daryl Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
An elderly man in Glenwood has died as a result of a fire in his home early this morning. The Gander Police and Fire Department responded to the call shortly before 4:30 and arrived to find the home engulfed in flames. The man was the only person inside. Today, police praised the Glenwood Fire Department and paramedics for their heroic efforts and offered condolences to the man's loved ones. The cause of the fire remains under investigation. Well, winds on the Northern Peninsula were enough to overturn a tractor-trailer today in Grossmoor National Park. Just have a look at this. It happened on the highway near Western Brook Bridge on Route 430 north of Rocky Harbour. RCMP shut down the highway to one lane and warned drivers about poor weather conditions.
And there will be poor weather conditions into this evening. It will be a wet and rainy one for much of the island. We still have a rainfall warning in effect and a wind warning in effect for the perimeter of much of Newfoundland and Labrador. And what's going to happen is after that rain starts to move off, especially on the west coast, it's going to change over to some flurries tonight, leaving some flurries behind tomorrow and some sun and cloud to brighten it up though. And then on Saturday, it looks like we should have a pretty decent day with some sun and cloud. Let's take a look at those warnings. You can see here kind of around the perimeter of Newfoundland, we've got that wind warning in effect. The wreck house wind warning is over now. That did bring a gust of 143 kilometers an hour to that area today. We'll take a look at that and all of this a little later on.
Thanks, Heather. Well, Newfoundland and Labrador wants to boost the number of immigrants coming to this province, but some immigrants who are living here say they're struggling to stay. Some international PhD students say policies are forcing them to go to the U.S. Here Now's Peter Cowan explains.
Moving from Iran to Newfoundland takes a bit of adjusting, especially with the weather.
Here was very cold in the beginning, and but I got used to it because the warmth of the people and the culture and everything in the city warmed our heart.
In the last 5 years, St. John's has become home for Farouk Mohammadi and her husband. They're both PhD candidates in sociology at Memorial University. They've made friends, they've put down roots.
I love Newfoundland, I love St. John's, and as I said, I love the people, so I definitely would love to stay here. My husband also loves to stay here, but unfortunately, because of very different challenges we face, we have to leave the province. We have no other choice than leaving the province.
For many, after getting a PhD, the next stop is a job in academia. But despite studying in Canada, getting a job here is next to impossible. Universities have to consider permanent residents and citizens first. But in order to apply to become a permanent resident, you need to have a job. And caught in that catch-22, PhD students often look south of the border.
I know a lot of friends who are applying for jobs in the US, actually, because it is more accessible for them to get a job without any permanent status, while they cannot do it here in Newfoundland or in Canada.
She's not alone in her experience. Sanaz Nabavian is facing the same predicament. She's finishing her PhD in information management systems. She's started her own company and she wants to grow it here.
I'm not calling it discrimination, but it's like a problem, it's a barrier. And I believe actually that the government, the people in Canada are willing to listen, and it is good to see our perspective.
She started a petition to convince the government to change the rules, making it easier for people who study here to become residents and stay here. The federal government had a program, but it was scrapped a few years ago. Newfoundland and Labrador has had a big push on attracting more immigrants, spending millions to bring over Ukrainians. But even as it does that, international students who've made a home here are leaving.
I have witnessed a massive flow of out immigration, second immigration from Newfoundland, from Atlantic provinces to other major provinces in Canada. Actually, Atlantic is investing in these people, and then these people leave these provinces, which is very, very sad.
Okay, so what does government have to say about this? Peter Cowan joins us now. So Peter, what is government's response?
Well, Jerry Byrne, the minister responsible for immigration, said it's up to Memorial University to fix this. In a statement, he said, if international students are good enough to study and graduate under Memorial University's rigorous academic standards, then they should be good enough to be hired for full-time academic jobs at Memorial University. Except Memorial University says it's just following federal rules that for academic jobs, permanent residents need to be considered first, along with Canadian citizens. The federal government told me that it ended a program in 2015 that worked to retain PhD students, and now they have to apply through the Express Entry program. PhD candidates could receive high CRS scores for express entry for their language skills and education, it told me. But as the department pointed out, anyone with a PhD can apply. So whether you're a student living here and you want to stay and work, well, you're in no better ground than someone applying from away. And the students here say they want to have a better system because they just want to stay. Carolyn?
Thank you so much, Peter. Well, the Liberal Party held its annual fundraiser last night at the Delta Hotel in St. John's. It was a pricey affair featuring some of the biggest corporate donors in the province. Premier Andrew Furey used it as a chance to champion the accomplishments of his government. Have a listen.
We've welcomed refugees from Ukraine and Afghanistan. We've created one health authority. We've saved West White Rose. We've saved Bay du Nord. We've saved Terra Nova. We've attracted 31 different proponents for wind projects across our province. We've addressed the Muskrat Falls mess with a $5.2 billion deal. We've dissolved Nowcor. We've brought the school district into government. And we've made a suite of initiatives to add more healthcare professionals, more students, more opportunities to entice them to stay here in this province.
Well, that's the Premier speaking at the annual Liberal fundraiser last night. CBC reporter Ryan Cook has more on today's reaction to that event.
One of the words Premier Furey used throughout his speech last night was momentum. Momentum in healthcare and immigration and renewable energy. He says the government has put a lot of things into motion over the past 2 years, but the Progressive Conservatives question if things are moving in the right direction.
Our emergency rooms have never been so, they've never been so blocked. And so demand, I mean, you're in these horror stories and every day you read the news, what's going on over there. That's not momentum. Seniors are still struggling. People are struggling to heat their homes, to put food on their tables. Is that momentum? The price of gas and price of home heating fuel is still sky high. Like, is that momentum? I don't get. Again, I found it really insulting.
I also asked Petten about the fundraiser itself. These glitzy $500 plate dinners are a mainstay of politics, really regardless of party affiliation. There were about 450 people at last night's event from some of the biggest companies in the province, the majority of whom often bid on contracts and do work with government, including John Risley. His company World Energy GH2 had a full table last night, and so did at least one other company bidding for a hydrogen project.
I mean, it's pretty, what's in your face. There's no backing away, and it's almost like we're doing it and get out of our way, and it's troubling. It's not where we need to be, and I've said it before, and if we continue on the road we're on and the way we're going, we're not much better in the Banana Republic.
Some very strong words there from Barry Petten. He says that the PCs have benefited from these fundraisers as well, but he thinks campaign finance reform is needed now. Petten thinks that could force parties to build closer connections with the general public, and not just those who can pay $500 for a steak dinner. Ryan Cook, CBC News, St. John's.
A research project that will make it easier to get tested for sexually transmitted infections was launched in St. John's today. The year-long Approach study will give people access to free, confidential testing for HIV, hepatitis C, and syphilis at almost a dozen pharmacies in the province. Here now's Mark Quinn reports.
One small jab and a tiny bit of blood is all it takes. But the information this 5-minute test can give you is invaluable.
What does the result say?
The result says that you are not reactive. You do not have HIV antibodies.
Good news for Dr. Debbie Kelly of Memorial University's School of Pharmacy, who agreed to give a few drops of her own blood to demonstrate how tests are done. Research has shown cases of HIV, hepatitis C, and syphilis are on the rise in Canada. But 14% of people with HIV and 40% of those with hepatitis C don't know they have it. Already, an earlier pilot project in Newfoundland found one person with HIV who didn't know it.
So the key with all these infections is that they are treatable. In fact, hepatitis C and syphilis are curable. And with HIV, it is certainly preventable as well as treatable. So really knowing your status is important to get you connected with care.
11 pharmacies in Newfoundland and Labrador, like this one on Lamarchant Road in St. John's, are taking part in this research and providing testing.
If you don't even want to say it out loud, because there could be somebody listening wherever you are, little piece of paper, hand it to us and we'll discreetly take care of it for you, right?
Earlier today, Kelly was at the AIDS Committee of Newfoundland and Labrador's building in St. John's to launch the project. The committee's executive director says HIV testing has become difficult to get because of the pandemic and the doctor shortage.
That's where most people would go and get their tests, but we have a high number of people that don't have access to a family physician. So this project is very exciting, and we're very excited to participate because we'll actually be able to refer our clients to what we know is going to be a safe, non-judgmental service.
This study is funded by a grant from the Canadian Institutes for Health Research. It's a partnership between Memorial University's School of Pharmacy, Nova Scotia Health, and the University of Alberta's Faculty of Pharmaceutical Sciences. Yetman hopes the results will mean even more HIV, hepatitis C, and syphilis testing at more pharmacies across the province. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
The top ranks of the Newfoundland and Labrador fishing industry are going through a big change. First, the person in charge of the association that represents fishing companies stepped down. And today, a major and unexpected shakeup within the Fisheries Union. Terry Roberts reports.
Tony Doyle.
Few were expecting this.
So this morning, I informed the executive of the FFAW that I will be leaving the union.
His closest colleagues didn't find out until this morning.
I apologise for the emotion, but no, it is an emotional day.
Your new president, Keith Sullivan.
8 years after he became leader, Keith Sullivan's reign at the top of the powerful Fish, Food and Allied Workers Union will soon be over.
There's been a lot of Sullivans involved in the fishing industry.
He's young, he got enthusiasm, he got his dad was in the union for a long time, so he's got the experience.
I pledge to you as
the man from Calvert who paid his way through university by working on his father's boat, leaving the FFAW with 2 years left in his term, just 42 years of age. No reason. Personal, he says.
I'm healthy, as far as I know. I don't have a plan to go into another position or anything right now, but I'm going to give that some consideration, take a little time in the new year.
Sullivan joined the union leadership ranks 18 years ago, succeeded Earl McCurdy in 2014, and has been the face of the union ever since, both at the negotiating table, battling it with processors, and in the media.
DFO is downloading a lot of work onto the Fishermen's Union.
Often clashing with this man, head of the Association of Seafood Producers.
If we don't buy because the numbers don't make sense and we can't make money, they man the blockades.
In a strange coincidence, both are leaving their jobs at the same time.
But I just felt like personally it was a time for a change.
Sullivan is leaving with the fishery at a high point, record values in recent years. But protest and anger is never far away. Sullivan admits he doesn't relish confrontation, but feels good about the future of the union, the fishery, and his role in it.
Constant gains that we've been able to make, better contracts.
Sullivan will stay on for now. Nominations for his successor opens December 15th. If necessary, members of the Joint Council will hold a vote on January 5th. Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
A wet and windy night is ahead for much of the island with some snow in behind it. We'll tell you all about that after this.
Well, the holiday season is upon us, but food banks in the province are sounding the alarm. They're facing unforeseen demand and fewer donations. Here Now's Malone Mullen has more.
It's an average Tuesday at this warehouse. Trucks and vans line up to wait for their hauls. But it's not just any consumer good they're picking up. This is a lifeline, the last safety net for those going hungry.
We have some beans and children's pasta here.
The whole operation begins with donations. The Community Food Sharing Association acts as a central hub, collecting from food drives and buying groceries wholesale. Every week, food banks from around the province, 56 of them, show up for their share, taking boxes and tins back to their communities. Bridges to Hope in St. John's is one of those food banks. Here, volunteers pack hampers with basic staples, canned vegetables, cereal, even freshly baked bread. But clients only get one hamper every month from the food bank network, food that only lasts a few days. And this year, the people who run it say that reality is hitting harder than ever.
I think we're in a dire situation, unfortunately. We're in a public health crisis. You know, I don't like to say it, but like I'm losing sleep over it at this point.
The root problem, even in a world of excess and surplus, the most vulnerable are left without enough to go around.
Right across the country, food banks are reporting a significant increase in demand, as well with the decrease in donations.
The Food Sharing Network serves more than 10,000 people every year, supplying them collectively with over 3 million kilograms of food, enough to fill 100 dump trucks. But the latest stats show food bank usage in this province is believed to have risen 27% in the last year alone. Inflation means less buying power and less cash to spend as donors grip their wallets tighter than before. Demographics, too, have changed.
The newest thing we're seeing mostly is this demand for food by people that are working. We recently had to change our hours to, we were getting a lot of calls of people saying that I work and I need to get to the food bank, but I can't get there because your hours are when I work.
Amid all those rapid changes this year, the warehouse today is full to bursting. This is $250,000 worth of goods. But operators say within only a few weeks, it'll all be gone, and the food bank network will rely once again on charity to keep the province's most vulnerable from starving.
I do see a lot of government intervention when we have other crises, whether they're climate, whether they're gas gouging. The government seems to step in, so I'm waiting for the government to step in here and to address this problem because it's an emergency.
This year, food bank operators say they face an even greater threat than usual. Because when the hampers run out, where do people turn?
If this trend continues, what we're seeing right now, I don't know how food banks would even be able to keep up with the demand.
Malone Mullen, CBC News, St. John's.
This season, we want to be together, and magically, we are.
That magic, that energy, what we're doing is actually making a difference.
You have the right to eat. You have the right to food.
We feel a real responsibility. We've been in this community for a long, long time.
This season, whatever kind of season you make it, make the season kind.
As you just saw there, CBC has launched its December Kindness campaign. CBC continues to partner with the Community Food Sharing Association to make the season kind for families in need.
And the Food Sharing Association distributes food to food banks across our province year-round to help people put food on the table for those who are in need. And you can support your local food banks by making a donation online at cbc.ca/feednl. And Carolyn, today is the first meteorological day of winter.
Yes.
Astronomical, not astrological. Astronomical winter is when the solstice is, so that's a little later this month on the 21st. But December, January, February is winter, so it's going to get colder, and then when the heat comes on, you know, we're in this era of really high heating costs. It's going to be hard for some people during the winter.
Yeah,
so.
for sure. Yeah, we're definitely into it now. December 1st. My goodness, time flies. And how are we doing temperature-wise?
Temperature-wise, a lot warmer than yesterday. Let's take a look at our current temperatures right now. It is 4 degrees here in St. John's, where we are. A little warmer on the South Coast, 5 in Cape Race, 7 in Burgeo and St. Lawrence, 6 degrees on much of the west coast of the island. Cooler, of course, as we get up into the Northern Peninsula and into Labrador, where it is -5 in Labrador City right now. Now, much warmer than it was yesterday by 9 degrees in St. John's, as much as 15 in Badger, and 18 degrees warmer in Happy Valley Goose Bay at this hour than it was 24 hours ago. Let's move on to a little bit of those rainfall totals, because it has been a wet day on much of the island. So in St. David's, that's in Bay St. George South, 57 millimeters of rain. St. Andrews and Codroy Valley area, 52 millimeters. Wreck House, you got 23.7, a little less in Corner Brook and less again in Port aux Basques. Burntberry Pond, which is near Springdale, got 12.2. Burgeo, you got 9. You were underneath that rainfall warning. It looks like you might get another 10 millimeters of rain tonight, and Stephenville got 6.5 millimeters of rain. You can see that a little bit more rain here is expected over the next little while through 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. About 10 or so millimeters to 20 expected for the south coast of the island and parts of the southern Avalon, and about 5 millimeters here for the St. John's area. Now, moving on to our wind gusts. That's really been the story for Wreck House today. 143 kilometers per hour. We had a gust, 111 down here in Port aux Basques, Sagona Island, a gust of 120. Pretty gusty here on the east coast too, 80 in St. John's and Bonavista, and we had one gust of 83 today in Makovic. That gusts, they're going to move across the island as we get into the evening tonight. So 10 o'clock tonight, we'll really be feeling it on the Avalon before things calm down into early Friday morning. Future tracker here showing a bit of a mix here for parts of the west coast now as this system pushes on through. We'll have a bit of a mix as well in parts of St. John's and the Avalon after this rain ends and pushes off into the overnight before it clears off, leaving some flurries and some snow squalls for the west coast, waking up to some flurries for you folks there as well into the night. We're going to have some flurries possible for St. John's, a bit of a mix before morning for the Avalon before the system moves off at 0 degrees. Some rain though in Marystown. We could have some flurries a little later tonight for Grand Falls, Windsor, and in Corner Brook. It looks like once that rain moves, your rain will change over to flurries, and we have a chance of flurries elsewhere. It will be really windy though here, gusting to 110 for the west coast tonight. Chilly into Labrador City Wabash area, where it will be quite chilly when you factor in the wind chill tonight. Now, our future tracker for Friday. It'll probably be, you know, a little bit clearer here for St. John's. We will have some of those flurries and snow squalls for the west coast as things move off onto Saturday, making for a nice day with a mix of sun and cloud as we head into Saturday. So for tomorrow, it looks like here in St. John's, earlier in the morning, we could have some flurries before things clear up. Temperatures between 2-3 degrees. Bonavista, you could have a chance of flurries in the afternoon, 2 degrees and sun and cloud for Marystown. Heading a little bit further west now, temperatures between 0 and 1 degree. We could have some flurries for Gander and West, possible flurries Harbour Breton in the afternoon. For the west coast tomorrow, it looks like we could have 2 to 4 centimeters for the Stephenville area, a 0 in Port aux Basques, chance of flurries there. And as we move on up to the Northern Peninsula tomorrow, chance of flurries in St. Anthony, a little nicer in the Straits and on to Mary's Harbour. And as we get into Labrador, into the minus digits there in Labrador, and we will have a look at how the weekend is shaping up a little later with your long-term forecast.
Been in chair now for 20 years, yeah. I'm a quadriplegic.
A car accident left him paralyzed, but he hasn't let that get him down. We'll meet Salome Fowler and learn what keeps him motivated. Tonight, we introduce you to Salome Fowler, a Lansaloo man. A car crash 2 decades ago left him paralyzed from his chest down. He shared a day in his life with the CBC's John Gowdy, where his determination, sense of humor, and love of his family shone through. From that interview, we've put together this look at his life.
December 2016, that's when I came home. And I'm glad I did, because my brother got a little boy and a little girl. I wanted to see them grow up. I guess you can say I'm a happy-go-lucky guy, because I'm still on this side of the side, as they would say. I'm just happy because, well, like I was saying, I'm here. I get to see my niece and nephew. I get to see my brother and sister-in-law. I got to see them married, and I get to see my mom and dad and the rest of the family, and I got a great circle of friends, so it's always great to see those. Been in chair now for 20 years, yeah. I'm a quadriplegic, so I can't feel from the nipple line down. When I broke my neck, whatever, I broke the nerves from my fingers too. So on one hand, I can't move no fingers, on another one a little bit. I'm not sure where I was coming from or whatever, but just before the Fowler Bridge, there's a little dip there, and I was going too fast. When I hit the dip, I just made a big cut on the wheel, and I ended up in the trees just before the Fowler Bridge. And I guess it was a combination between the alcohol and driving fast. I'm not sure. My parents did tell me that I spent the whole day after, I guess, my surgery and all that, I spent the whole day crying because I wasn't going to be able to walk again or whatever, right? But after that day, that was it. I grew a new attitude and, dealing with life, and I just kept on wheeling, huh? Years ago now, since my accident. When I got out of the Miller Center in April, in that following September, I left and went into Grand Falls. I was in there until I came home. I'm flabbergasted how great the people have been treating me as just like anyone else, just like anyone walking. They don't take their time coming down, especially if there's no place I can haul off into or pull over into, whatever. And it's makes for a stressful time. Don't take us for granted or anything like that. Just be wary for us, and slow down. And I went over to the garage that I usually goes to, and I asked them if they had a mirror. Makes driving a lot more easier for me and less stressful. Great pastime coming over there, especially talking to the boys, whatever, and seeing what they're doing and all that. They accommodate me. If I can't get in around somewhere, they move some stuff around and things like that. I believe when I was in college, I watched one of the Rocky movies. He said, it's not how hard you can hit, it's how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. I put that quote by my name on Facebook most every year of the anniversary of me car accident. Don't go looking back, keep looking forward and keep your head above the sand, and you'll be all right.
you like T-buns, John?
No, I don't like T-buns.
What's wrong with you? Too good for a T-bun, aren't you?
Cracked and cheerful comedy. That's what the Globe and Mail called Dave Sullivan and Mary Walsh's new comedy show. They appeared on the St. John's Morning Show to talk about the second season of The Mrs. Downstairs. We'll bring you some of that chat up next. Film festivals from Los Angeles to New York City have showered a local series with awards. The Mrs. Downstairs follows an unlikely friendship between two neighbors, played by Mary Walsh and Dave Sullivan. The second season premieres today on Bell 5 TV, and they've already gotten the green light for season 3. Chrissy Holmes, host of the St. John's Morning Show, spoke with the stars earlier today.
You live next door, or?
No, I live downstairs.
What? Are you sure?
Oh, yeah.
What is Mary's behind-the-scenes superpower as her comedic genius?
That, her comedic genius, and the fact that, she has more energy and works harder than I think anybody I've ever worked with in my life. And that might, I don't know if it would surprise people to know that, but you're the hardest working person I know. Like, you're always going. Like, you're a machine. Some people would rest on their laurels. Like, you get the Order of Canada and you're, you know, and like, but you're a machine.
After a great first season, here comes the second season. I mean, that's got to come with its own kind of, pressure, I suppose, after how well it went over. Like, where was your head going into the second season?
You know, the first season was based almost entirely on Dave's real life experiences with a lovely woman who just happened to be, like Rick Hillier always says, it's not that Newfoundlanders are friendly, it's just that they're nosy, right? And
but it was a sweet kind of nosy.
A sweet kind
if
of
you're
nosy
listening.
who was constantly there, and Dave wasn't after that. But always wanting to be, you know, getting close to Dave and finding out all the stuff about Dave. And Dave had this fantasy that he would be out there living on the edge of the sea, you know, having a relationship with nature, with the ocean, with the, you know, just him and the ocean. Yeah. But as soon as he'd get up every day, sometimes he'd get up at 5 o'clock to go to the gym, and she would already be out there smoking.
You work some hard. Sure, you left here 5:45 this morning.
Yeah.
That is a long day.
Mm-hmm. Like when you leaned over, when you were talking about misses, right? You do this thing where you pull, you know, it's like, you know that move when somebody moves right into your space, puts a hand on your hand, and they're pulling you right in.
Yeah.
I'm super comfortable with that.
I know. Well, something's happened here. Can you tell us a little bit about how close you've now become?
I think it's more like, so like the last season, it's like, oh, look, somebody's living in the basement. Oh, and they're ever present and they never go away. And now it's more she's involved. Like she is taking a very big interest in my life and everything that I'm doing. And it's nonstop. And she's just toying with the life and she's getting in there, playing around, she's actually trying to make me a better person.
Or at least a person, is what Mrs. would say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because she's not a hermit, not some kind of thing that lives underneath a rock, but an actual human being, John.
So I'm excited. You got a Christmas special coming up?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we got a Christmas special, yeah.
Okay.
And we both love Christmas. We've just discussed that.
I know, neither of us like Christmas at all.
We're the worst.
But we did have we got more decorations, and there's a guy in Conception Harbor who decorates his entire acre. And so we borrowed all his stuff, and we borrowed all my stuff, and we did her up, you know, every inch.
It looks so tasteful.
Well, you do Christmas comedy really well for somebody who doesn't love Christmas, I gotta say.
I think we're the best people to do Christmas comedy, actually, because we have this. And by the way, I might not like Christmas, but I'm open to the idea of changing my mind.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm open to having a good Christmas. But this special is really funny, and that'll be released next week. Today, the first 6 episodes are released, and then next week, the Christmas special will kick out.
Important papers. I gotta get.
Way to go, buddy! I'm proud of you, John.
Yeah. There is a lid for every pot.
The video streaming service Netflix is trying to pump up interest in its upcoming documentary series about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. The company has released its first promotional trailer for the 6-part series. The CBC's Abby Kuathasan reports.
It's the first look at the much-anticipated docu-series featuring the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. In the 1-minute trailer, we see black and white photos of the couple, but also an image with the Prince and Princess of Wales. Netflix says the series will explore the early days of Harry and Meghan's courtship, but also the challenges they faced before they stepped away from the British monarchy. Harry and Meghan left their roles as working members of the royal family in 2020 and moved to the U.S. Since then, they've spoken to Oprah about the difficulties they've experienced within the family and the institution, some of it which was linked to racism. This trailer comes as a royal scandal brews in London. A black British domestic abuse campaigner says she was interrogated by Prince William's godmother about her identity at a Buckingham Palace event. Ngozi Fulani says Susan Hussey approached her, touched her hair, and persistently badgered her about where she was really from.
I don't know who you are, but it is not okay to put your hand in my hair, whoever you are. But we are taught to respect elders, and she was a senior to me. And I thought, okay, just let it pass. She said, "What's your nationality?" And I said, "Lady, I was born here, I'm British." I was thinking that would be the end of it. No. No, where are you really from? Where are your people from? Lady, my people. What is this?
The palace reacted quickly, calling the comments unacceptable. Hussey is no longer a royal aide. She'd been the Queen's lady in waiting for some 60 years, raising fresh questions about racism within the institution. Abby Kwoldasin, CBC News, London.
Tomorrow on CBC Radio's Newfoundland Morning, there's a unique Christmas tree at the Clarenville Farmers Market, a full-size tree that was crocheted. Hear from the creator tomorrow on Newfoundland Morning. And on Labrador Morning, hear about a free mentorship program by Iron and Earth to help oil and gas workers who want to transition to a net zero job.
Well, if you've ever visited Green Bay, you probably know that there are some impressive whale skeletons on display in Kings Point and in Triton. Well, on this weekend's edition of Land and Sea, host Jane Adey will give you an inside look at some of these skeletons. She joins us now. So tell us more about the displays there.
So, Carolyn, this story goes back to a couple of years ago when I was hosting the broadcast, and I wanted to go out and do the story from the Humpback Whale Pavilion in Kings Point. I don't know if you have ever been there.
No, never.
It is a world-class exhibit, really impressive. A 50-foot humpback whale at eye level. So I did the show from there, and I interviewed David Hayashida, who was instrumental in setting up that particular pavilion. And through our conversation, he told me, you know, Jane, there are actually whale skeletons in warehouses and sheds all over Green Bay and White Bay, just collecting dust, and they've been there for more than 15 years. So I wanted to find out why that was, why these communities went through so much effort to preserve these whale skeletons. And so that's what this Land and Sea show is all about. But I'll give you a hint that there's some pretty impressive skeletons. There's a fin whale, a minke whale, a rare Sowersby beaked whale. So in this episode of Land and Sea, we're going to find out about the community efforts and why these communities wanted to preserve all of these whales. So we're taking you inside some of these warehouses and show you these impressive whale bones that have been sitting there for so long.
Oh, it sounds great. How can people watch?
All right, so this show is called Whale, Tail, and Trail, and you can find it on Land and Sea at 11:30 on Sunday. That's 11 o'clock in most of Labrador. You can also watch on Monday evenings, I should say, after Here and Now at 7 p.m.
Excellent, Jane. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Looks like it's going to be an interesting Land and Sea.
Indeed.
Yeah, so let's see what's coming up in the weather. Looking ahead now to the weekend, which seems to be looking great.
Seems to be looking great for Saturday. Sunday's a little bit dicier, but time will tell, of course, and there are some Santa parades rescheduled for St. John's for Sunday and one in Corner Brook. So let's take a closer look. First with Saturday, it looks like we will have a pretty nice day on Saturday, but we do have another system here knocking on our door, as you can see there on the future tracker. Taking a closer look, it should be a mix of sun and cloud for most parts of the island, looking like an absolutely beautiful day with seasonal temperatures for much of the island. Around 1 degree for the eastern half of the island, 3 down in Marystown and in Corner Brook as well. Nice and warm at 5 degrees in Port Basque. Getting a little chillier as we head up into Labrador and into Cartwright, and it looks like here in Labrador City Wabush you should have some periods of snow. Now I should mention that Wabush did get 16 centimeters of snow last evening. Let's take a look ahead to Sunday now. We see the system starting to move across the island, and what that is going to do is it is going to bring some showers, possibly some flurries to many places. So here, Sunday, St. John's, sun and cloud, 3 degrees. Looking pretty good if Santa Claus wants to come down from the North Pole and come wave hi to us. However, as we get a little further west, it looks like we will have a chance of showers for many parts of the island, including Central and in Corner Brook on Saturday. It looks like we could have a 60% chance of shower. So I don't know what that will mean for Mr. Santa Claus. I know he likes the snow, but I'm not sure about the rain. So let's take a look ahead now at our 5-day forecast for St. John's. It looks like we will have a chance of showers on Friday. Talking about that in the morning, mixed with snow before the morning. Saturday, Sunday looking good into Monday and Tuesday. Seasonal temperatures for us, but going on into central Newfoundland now, it looks like we will have a chance of flurries on Friday. Saturday's looking nice. Chance again there on Sunday for you. Monday, Tuesday, when you go back to work, of course, it looks nice. And then on Friday for Western Newfoundland, you see some of those flurries there. Saturday looks nice. That chance of showers on Sunday. Monday, Tuesday looking good for you guys there as well. On into Labrador, it looks like we have a chance for the eastern part of Labrador of precipitation of some sort, be it snow or rain. Through the weekend for you guys, clearing off on Monday and Tuesday. Looking quite chilly in the overnight on Monday into Tuesday though. For Western Labrador, it looks like that will be more snow for you. Monday looking like your nice day, but pretty cool. Now, on to our weather photo.
That's great.
Isn't it pretty? It's
gorgeous.
What a nice photo. This one comes to us from Julie Baggs, and she took that at Sandbanks Provincial Park down by Burgeo, and I called it Sandbanks Shoreline. She said she got her feet wet when she took it.
I bet.
But she said, hashtag worth it.
Definitely worth it, Julie. Nice work.
So if you've got photos to send to us, you can do so at nlphotos@cbc.ca.
And I should clarify, I think the Corner Brook Christmas Parade is on Saturday, and the St. John's Christmas Parade is on Sunday. So I think it's looking pretty good, because Saturday, I think you said,
Saturday's
was
the
looking really
nice
nice
day,
in
yeah.
Corner Brook. So could be good to go. All right, that's it for us tonight. Thank you so much for joining us.
Take care.